Alrighty, everyone, welcome to Curveball. It's Heather Campbell, and today I am with the one and the only Laura Belgray. She's the founder of Talking Shrimp, and she's the co-creator of The Copy Cure with Marie Forleo. As an award-winning copywriter and unapologetically funny voice in the marketing world, she helps entrepreneurs find their unique voice, write like they talk, and turn their words into money. Her work has been featured in major outlets like Fast Company and Business Insider. She's also the author of a best-selling memoir and essays, which is called Tough Titties, on living your best life when you're the effing worst, which I absolutely loved. I read that over my vacation at Christmas, and it was one of those books when I was just like, when your right thumb starts to inform your brain, like we're getting close to the end. I'm like, no, because every story was so fun and so relatable. And I really felt like, well, if she can do it, I can do it too. So I love the way it's just a take on late bloomers, unconventional past, and building a business being fully yourself. This lady is also my copywriting mentor and has helped me just so much in this past year. I think just absolutely find new form freedom and fun in my writing and marketing like I never have before. And I just love this because she thinks quirks are your edge, and she's built a career and an amazing brand, helping others turn theirs into profit. Laura, welcome to Curveball.
Oh, thank you so much, Heather. For anyone who's listening and not watching, I'm making that sanctimonious prayer hands face. Thank you. Thank you so much for all the nice words, for the kind words. Yes. Thank you. Appreciate you. Yeah.
So one of the things that I really love about your writing is that you just seem to have this magical ability to find like business metaphors in the most random things. Like I think you could write about, I don't know, like pistachio shells and somehow like connect it back to your business. So like I was trying to think, what is the most random thing? And I'm like, pistachio shells.
Yeah.
And then
random.
was there like a secret family humor recipe or something like that? Or did you just realize, like, how do you find the gold in just these everyday things like tomatoes or BLTs or buying cheese at a grocery store or taking a trip with your parents? Like, how do you take these relatively mundane events and then turn them into emails that people actually read and they're connected to your business? Like you just don't write, oh, I went cheese shopping and then this is a kind of cheese. You always bring it back home to some sort of business lesson. So how do you do that?
How do you do that?
You do that.
Thank you. Definitely doesn't come from my family, though I have a very funny family. Like my sister is hilarious. My dad was mostly unintentionally funny, but very funny. And my mom makes the little jokes and says, ha. But that sort of going deep on the tiny things is my favorite kind of writing. And then finding a segue to something meaningful, something that I've developed because I started off like in the online space when I started using creative writing for an audience as opposed to writing for work, like writing promos for TV. In the beginning, I would just write about totally random things. And then I would say, now your turn. What about you? Have you ever saved your toenail clippings? I would, not that I did, but I wouldn't really bring it to any kind of conclusion or find an arc to meaning. It was just a little observation or something I felt like writing about, or I had a series called Wayback Wednesdays where I would write about, say, the stationery store where I used to play video games, or how my dad would call his rain boots rubbers, all kinds of things about growing up in the 80s in New York. And none of them really had any kind of arc to meaning. Once again, It would just be a nostalgia piece. And then once I started writing emails and turning those I started switching over from blog post to email, and now wanting to make money from my emails. I had no idea how to monetize any of this, except that the that my writing would attract people who wanted to hire me, who wanted that kind of writing for themselves. And so I would write about something totally random, and people would say, I love your writing style. Can you help me with my about page? And they would hire me.
Right. Okay.
But then I started having things to sell, and it gave my emails a little more direction, purpose. And I realized that the people who were subscribing and paying attention for business reasons, which are the people who would pay me money, really wanted some sort of tie-in. And they found it really satisfying, and it became my thing, my device, where they would say, oh, I can't wait to see where this is going. How is she going to tie this into something? So it was a hat trick that became like my standard style.
Right. What is the most obscure thing, like looking back when you think about your emails, what's like one of the most obscure things that you've written about?
As you pointed out, without meaning to, it's almost always about food. I'm always writing about food and life with my husband, like just life around the house. So I can think of two things that involved him and food. One was, and this was a hugely popular email about an egg, about a rotten egg it wasn't just a stinky rotten egg. It was an egg that he cracked open. He was making us scrambled eggs, and he was like, Laura, like, what? He's like, can you come here? And I was like, I don't know why, what? And he's like, something's wrong. And then I went and looked, and it was a black egg.
Like I remember that email.
Black, yes. Right? With white spots on it. Like it had tonsillitis. It was the devil with tonsillitis in an egg. And I've never been so revolted. And the smell was unbelievable. Like we hadn't known something was stinking up the fridge all this time for a couple of months.
Right.
And we had tried the baking soda, and we had tried like cleaning it out for the most part, vinegar, all kinds of solutions that did not work. And then we realized it was that one egg stinking up the whole fridge. And so I tied it into the idea that what in your life, like that is not done, that is not finished, that you keep thinking about, that you need to do, that's incomplete, is stinking up your life. What is the egg trauma in your life?
Right. Yes.
And people really engaged with that and wrote back to it. And I think I just used that to sell something like, if it is write my about page or finish my about page, I have just the thing, my about page builder.
Right.
And so it sold stuff. And then there was also one about my husband, once again, griping about the raisin count in his Raisin Bran. And he was grumbling about it. And he's like, well, so much for 2 scoops. And it was, since when does it really have 2 scoops?
Inflation.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, welcome to the real world. Like, is this your first bowl of Raisin Bran? But I said, why don't you add some? We have a box of sun-made raisins right there in the pantry. Why don't you add some to your cereal? And he's like, no, that's not how the game is played. It's like, what game? So my takeaway to that is, he is a rule follower. My husband loves rules. Right. It's probably the German in him. I, meanwhile, hate rules and break all the rules that I can because I just don't like being told what to do. And so, I said to the reader, if you are a rule breaker like me, I have something I think you are going to love, writing emails to a list for a living. And I have just the thing. It's called Inbox Hero. So.
Oh, I love that. I would be a rule breaker too. We have these 2 Mormon churches that are literally built right across they share a parking lot, but they're right across this parking lot from each other. And I met these 2 women at one of my kids, like a track event. And one was, you're assigned to a church. So one goes to one church and the other one goes to the other church. And I'm like, oh my God, don't you ever want to go over to the other church and just see what's going on? And they're just like, no, like, why would you do that? And I'm like, oh my God, because like, you're like, you can't go to that church. And it's like right there. Like they were just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you're a horrible person. And I'm like, well, or
Yeah.
curious.
Yes.
Like,
I think they were afraid of being
so,
struck down.
so I know I know, seriously, you call yourself a lazy launcher, but I know that you have a fair amount of discipline too. Like we were just talking about your morning routine. So it's like, yes, you're not like, I'm waking up at 5 a.m. and
Nope.
drinking like orphan tears and like doing like my hard 70 or whatever that stuff is. But what is your daily practice? And then how do you develop a daily practice around your writing?
Yeah, first of all, I don't think of it so much as discipline as I do like habit, as in Rain Man.
Mm,
I am so habit driven, not
right.
building great habits. I just have a routine that I am fixed to. And
Right. You're just enough on the spectrum
yeah,
that, yes,
exactly.
yes.
Just that much on the spectrum. So, so my daily practice, which I haven't done yet today. Once in a while, I flake on it because I start working right away when there's something to be done. But normally I start my work day by writing in this platform called 750words.com, which
Mhm.
it's a journaling platform that has a word count at the bottom and it lights up, it turns green when you hit 750 words. And so I do that. I try to do it every single morning. Sometimes I miss a day here and there, but I do it for a few reasons. One is I always wanted to have a writing habit that was so strong that I would feel gross if I didn't write, like almost as if, oh, I didn't
Mm,
shower today or I didn't brush my teeth. I wanted it to
right.
feel like that because I was so undisciplined about writing. And
Mm,
I was this wannabe writer who never wrote anything for herself. So
mm,
once I started doing that, I used to journal here and there, but very spottily. And that I wish I had been doing this all my life. It wasn't around all my life. Neither was the internet nor
right.
were computers. But I wish I'd had this all my life. Like if only I had a journal of everything I ever did, because so I do it as a writing practice. One, as just a brain dump. It's just neural garbage that I get on the page and
Mm,
get out of my head. Sometimes it generates ideas and sometimes it generates actual writing that I could use somewhere else. That's rare, but it also functions as a true journal, as a record of my life. And I
mm,
write little details from the day before, usually, that I will never remember if I don't write them down. And now I
right.
get to look back and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I had no recollection of having that conversation. Oh my gosh, I said that was brilliant, or I can't believe that happened. Like, I love having these little details throughout the last
Yeah.
8 years or so, pretty steadily.
I love that. My grandmother started writing a journal, like started keeping a diary when she was like 8 or 9 years old. And it started off like tiny entries. And she grew up on a farm. So it'd be like, we traded milk for 7 chickens. Like it was stuff like that. But then she kept a diary her entire life. And my mom has all of her diaries. And I am so grateful that we have those. She, of course, handwritten,
Yeah, of
which is
course.
amazing.
Right.
So I try the 750 words. And I have to tell you, 750 words is longer than I think it is. Cause sometimes I'll be like, oh my God, I had like this amazing like journaling session. I just like to close my eyes and write and just whatever, just feel. Sometimes I feel I'm having a conversation with
Oh,
someone. Sometimes
downloading,
and I'm like,
channeling.
this has to be like at least like 1,000 words. And then I'm like, it's like, no, you've written 311. And I'm just like, oh my God. Yes.
Well,
So
a lot.
is there
Yeah, a
something
lot of
magical
mine.
about
Uh,
750? Is there something magical
I,
about that amount?
I Apparently so. I think it was based on some study that said something about 750 words. That you've seen other things, I'm sure, that recommend writing 1,000 words a day. But I don't know where 750 comes from, but I find it doable. There are some days when a lot of the words I'm writing are still not done with my words. Got to get through my words. Still 400 words left. So that's a lot of it. And then other days when I go to like 1,500 and just can't stop. Usually it's when I skipped a day or two and want to write down everything that happened.
Do you ever find, because you started off as a writer where you were submitting things for review and approval, did you ever find it took you a while to break through to journaling where you could really be free and not worry? Like, I guess when I started journaling, I was like, I remember I went to a journaling course, like a nighttime course, like with like a journaling workshop with my friend. And so they gave this prompt. And so I'm thinking through like, okay, well, what's like the story? What's the intent? Blah, blah, blah. Like I'm just approaching it like a marketer. And then when I'm just like, okay, I'm ready. They were like, okay, time's up. Did you ever find like that? One of the things that I really have loved working with you this year is, and I told you this, like I feel so free and I'm having so much fun with my content because I used to have so much intention. Like I used to spend like 2 to 3 hours on every email. Now I'm just putting things out. I feel like the whole world is like this fun marketing laboratory. But what is it? What is it about the way you write that somehow has inspired me, like through feedback, through osmosis, that you've allowed? I feel like I've never been more authentic. I feel like the stakes are really low in my like meaning I can put something out and if it works, works, like meaning like people comment, I'm building my list or my visibility, amazing. But if it doesn't work, I'm like, all right, let me try something else. And so I guess what is it about you had this? I don't know if I'm going to be saying this. The joy. I'm going to joie de vivre, like
joie de vivre.
Yeah, God, yes, okay.
Not everyone took French.
Carissa, yes, right, yeah. So I did take French though, sadly, but a long time ago, like a long time ago. So, but you do have this like freedom, and I'm just curious, like if you sense this in yourself or how you work with people. I guess what did you do to me? I guess is the question.
I love that question.
What has been done? Yes.
Well, when you had brain surgery,
yes,
I was there. No, I think that seeing somebody else, like a model of the kind of writing you want to do, wakes you up. And you just come alive to the possibility of that. Oh, you can write like that? You can write in your own voice, like you would write a note. I think when I am the most free in my writing is when I bring in that voice that I would use writing a note to a friend. Right. And so a lot of it comes from just looking back at my old emails, even when we used to email friends, because they were way longer than a text and way more written. And I was like, holy, that is genius. That's just such fun writing. And it wasn't edited and it wasn't thought out. It wasn't crafted, but the craft of it was great because it was me being me, expressing myself without thinking, what is an editor going to think? Will this turn somebody off? What will 1,000 people or 30,000 people think of this? I was thinking of one person or 4 people, maybe a group, and a group email. Or nowadays, a group text. I might write something that, and sometimes that's what I need to bring me back into that voice, because sometimes I do lose it and I can feel myself, like when I'm writing an email, especially if it's a sales email for a launch, I can feel myself writing it in a more formal, written way to a list. And that's when I have to be like, I got to be, think of the friend, email to a friend. email. And that's why I have coined that. It's not a framework so much as just an acronym, EFAB, which stands for email from a bestie, because that's where the magic is to me, is picturing, like, getting in that headspace of writing to a friend. And that's
Right.
where it all comes out the way you would normally say it. And that's where you get that writing that makes other people say, because I'm sure you're having an effect on other people now, where other people say, oh, you can write like that in business? I want to do
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right. So when I do see, like, when people, they can talk about their business, their stuff, they can talk about it really well, but then they sit down to write. And all of a sudden, I feel like they're like, oh, it has to be like, I feel like they take like two steps away from themselves and are now like that English major
Mm-hmm.
where there's like too much structure. So, how do you recommend people? How do you recommend that people notice when they're doing it? Number one, and then what's a good way to knock yourself out of that, to bring yourself closer to that conversation you're having? The EFAB.
Yes. I think, for one, read your stuff out loud and
Oh yeah, that
see.
is something you do. I do have to say
Yeah.
that when you're reviewing stuff, when you're reviewing anything people give you, you read it out loud and it completely changes and you can see where it gets
Mm-hmm.
bumpy or confusing. So anyways, I just want to say
Yes,
she does that herself.
I
Yes.
do that. And you can see where it gets formal and
Mm,
writerly, or I think there's nothing wrong with writerly or literary if you are writing literature, but with something that intimate, communication from one person to another, you don't want to be too literary. I mean, it's okay if
right.
you're writing a Substack and you're an author and you want to write in the style that you write your books, okay. But I still think that should be more intimate than an actual
Right.
book. So reading it out loud will tell you, is this a natural voice, or is this a written voice, a written
Mm,
communication? And
right.
when it sounds like
Like,
a written communication, to whom it may concern,
yes.
if you could add to whom it may concern and it will still sound in that tone,
Yes.
then you've
If you
written
start
it,
off with we're
overwritten
shocked and saddened. Oh my gosh, I used to do
it.
corporate communications and
Out of an
they're
abundance of
so
caution.
oh
Yeah.
God, you're just like, these are human beings. And it's like, oh no, but you got to protect the company at all costs and still
Right.
make it seem like we're human beings at the same time. So I totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is, I just think it's because you are known for your quirks, but what is like one of the most unusual or dramatic businesses you've worked with that you're like, maybe it's a business that you're just like, wait, you do what now? And then you're just like, oh no, I really help them like turn, because I just always think in marketing, if you can't fix it, feature it. So if like, I love playing around with that when people are like, oh, I can't help myself. Like I do this. I'm like, okay, we got to figure out how to make this part of your, like, we got to make this okay. And
Yeah.
so, what would be like a story you're thinking about, whether it was someone in one of your masterminds or someone who you just thought, wow, can I really help this business? Like, and because it was just like maybe a curveball business.
I can't think of any that were so out there that I couldn't help them. The ones where I felt like I don't know how to help you, the ones that were totally vague and full of
Mm,
language about empowerment and helping you step into your most juicy, authentic self and all that kind
right.
of crap, that it's like, I need specifics here, or
Yeah.
there's nothing I can do for you.
Right.
We have to get more specific. And if they couldn't, then it was really hard to help them. And I have had businesses that were a little bit out there and speaking in too out there a voice, that I did help very easily bring it back to a human level. For instance, I used to have, I don't know why, but a number of psychics would come to me, and I was out there
They
saying,
probably felt
I am,
called,
yeah, I
like,
guess so.
yeah.
Because I've always had this thing that I am not woo. I am woo adjacent, but I made that very clear that, and I even had on my site, like, if your profile picture is of you wearing a caftan and hugging a tree, we're probably not a fit. And yet people casting spells would come to me. People who are psychics and mediums talking to the dead would come to me. And their language would usually be so either airy fairy or just complex. Like, when
Yes.
we book a session, I receive a dynamic imagery of your blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what does that mean? And so we would
Right.
just boil it down. What does that mean? Oh, I do you see the future? Yes, I see the future. Okay, let's talk about that. Like,
Yeah.
you're,
Right. Yes.
yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, making it normal, making that person human. Like, this one psychic, Licia, she's now a retired psychic who became a copywriter, but it was so out there with so like purple with starbursts and that kind of imagery and then that kind of
Right.
language. And she was such a normal person. And she said that people would call her like Samantha from Bewitched or relate to her in a TV way or say, you're such a regular
Yeah.
person. You're such a normal person. I can't believe you're psychic. So I'd say, let's work that in there. Like, talk about how you're how people can't believe you're a psychic, because you can
Right.
also talk about an episode of Mad Men and and the protective bubble that you see around them that's protecting them from the evils of the world.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I do get that because, like, I love it when I get to work with someone who is in a lane where there's a lot of the same language, like coaching,
yeah.
meditation teachers. Like, I have a client who's a Buddhist, but she's always like, but I'm a bad Buddhist. And I'm like, that's right, you
That's it.
are. And
That's
so,
it.
yeah. And so we are like, how do we then challenge and it's so fun too, because you think about like a coach, it's almost like I love to have estheticians too, because
Hmm.
like you will never see me doing something with a woman laying with a towel over her privates, just holding an orchid. Like, I will
I hate
never
that.
do that kind
I
of
hate
work.
those photos.
I hate that. It's like, yeah, anyways. So, but it is so fun when you're in those spaces because when you start talking, like you really talk to another human being and not with, I don't know. I used to have this CEO that used to say, oh, this is a compelling example of creating meaningful shareholder value. And I'm like,
No.
that literally says nothing. And it's also implied everything we do needs to be creating shareholder value. Like,
Yeah.
no, don't say it's a compelling example. What the fuck is that even? Yeah. So my clients are always just like, God, because I'm like, I'm confused right now. And the thing is like, you don't want to confuse people because a confused mind does not engage. Like a confused
Right.
mind,
It
that's
says no.
why it's so important. So I'd love to talk with you about AI and if you're using AI and how you're using it and what your thoughts are
Yes.
about AI.
Yes. So I am using it. And in fact, I even have an AI tool that I created recently. And I've been creating a couple
Oh,
since
which is
that,
a
since
very
that.
good
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
You like it, right? It's called the Point
Once you
Finder.
start creating them, it's
Yeah.
fun to just keep on creating custom GBTs. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. So this one is called the Point Finder, and it's part of I taught this workshop called Make Your Point, and that teaches, it's a story to sale workshop. It's what I was talking about, taking a random story and finding an arc to meaning and a point and connecting it to the call to action that you want to use.
Mm-hmm.
And so I created this GPT to go with it called the Point Finder, and you can either plug in, like just dump in the story that you're working on, can be totally rough. And you can say, I have no idea what the point of this is, or what kind of call to action or takeaway could be paired with it. And it will help you come up with one. Or you could say, I want to connect this story somehow to my flower business. Or you could say, I want to promote a sale that I'm having on hydrangeas, but I need a story to go with it. And it will help you. It will give you leading questions to help you come up with something. So it's not going to make one up out of thin air. That totally didn't happen. Can't stand that. You can always tell when ChatGPT made shit up.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like
Hate
tell you your client is Martha Stewart. It literally makes things up. Like sometimes it will be like, oh yeah, I can read your website. And I'm like, yeah, what does the headline say? And then it's something about like not you. It's just, yeah, I love that point finder. I actually used it the other day because there was this launch in the industry and it was gross. It's like a bro marketer. And it was like scheduled for 2 hours. And I'm part of this community where everyone's like losing their minds over this. So they're just like, oh my God. So
perchance?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to be cool. I was going to say no strip baseball cap muscles. Right. But it was gross. It ended up getting gross to me. Like, because it ended up going on for like 10 hours. And the thing is, I know all those psychological triggers that they're doing from exhausting people to crowd mentality and everything. And I really wanted to write about it because I will never do like a DIY because people donated money, but it was about him getting bestseller. I feel like a gossip, but I was so grossed out
He's
by
such a public figure and it's such a point of discussion in the industry. Why not name it? Okay. Everyone knows who it is anyway.
Okay, I will name it.
Yeah.
And I just felt it was juicing sales of his book so he could become a New York Times bestseller, which he did. He sold 3 million books. He made $100 million that day. Jesus. And then I'm in this group with a bunch of online marketers and they're just like, he's a god. He's amazing. And they're like, yeah. And then he's giving away all these books. I'm like, he's not giving them away. Like, how are you guys missing this? Because all I could think about is this poor entrepreneur, like in like this like woman who's a yoga instructor and all she wants to do is help like women in menopause, like have strong bones. And these 200 books are going to arrive. And she's like, what have I done? Like just like, and then I just knew. So anyways, I used that point finder because I'm like, I'm really like feisty about this. And then I ended up like, I'm going to create, like it gave me this really good idea, like of how I can connect it back to say, these are the psychological triggers. This is how it's affecting your brain chemistry. And I just don't want to do business that way. Like and all the commentary in my group is about how much money he made. And all I could think about is like 97% of people who bought will not be successful. Like, you know what I mean? Like the numbers are so, when you're in one of those DIY programs, because at the end of the day, you still have to do everything yourself. Anyway, so I was just grossed out by that. What do you think? What do you think? Do you think about that?
I tried, because everybody was talking about it, and I tried listening to it while I was on my walk, and I kept getting distracted because when he brought up, I always love hearing these kind of rags to riches stories. And they sound empowering. It's like, this client of mine made X amount, and this is how I started making X amount for my clients, etc., with these switches or whatever it was called. And I felt like, first of all, I wasn't excited by the language he was using. It actually wasn't. The results were impressive, but then when he kept talking about it, like, I don't know, was this really long name for it, like the $1 million method plan of action? It was like I forget what it was called, but it was a sort of a dissonant name. And every time he said it, I lost focus. And it also I found his storytelling style boring. The only exciting part of it to me was the number of millions being made, because I light up at numbers like that. But the storytelling style sounded canned and webinar-like, and it sounded like he was reading off of a script. And that was not engaging to me. And it sounded a little bit ChatGPT written. And that brings me back to what I think of AI, I think it can be super useful. And I use it all the time I use it now almost every time I'm writing an email to help me tighten it up. Because otherwise I can spend hours looking through it being like, that's a clumsy sentence, or I repeat that word a couple of times, or that
Right.
idea, and it feels like it starts again. And so ChatGPT has been very helpful in tightening things up, telling me what edits it would make, where it would punch something up. It's also not always logical. Like, you get rid of that,
No.
and then you're losing the context for that line later. And they're like, good
Right.
catch. So it's not a
Yes.
genius. It's just quick,
It's
and
too
some of it's
affirming.
good.
Like,
Yeah.
I want to come up with like a really stupid business idea just to see what it would say. Like, I want to say,
Yes.
like, ChatGPT, I have an idea for permanent taffy. So it's like taffy, and then you buy flavors and you can like reflavor it and you can have it forever. And so I just want to see, like, I thought that
That's
would be like the
genius.
dumbest product.
Yes.
And to
That's a
see what, because it
brilliant
would be
thing
like,
to test
wow,
it with.
amazing. Okay, I will, and I will I'll put it in our Shrimp Club book. Okay, so I absolutely loved your book. Like, it was one of those books that and then I ended up reading the reason. So I bought your book, and then I bought this other book that was based on the New York Times book review, and they said this is the most depraved book I've ever read. Not your book,
No.
the other one I got. So I read your book, Tough Titties, and then I read this book called Rejection. Have you heard about this
Oh,
book?
I think
It
I have
is
it
the
on my
most depraved.
downloads. Is it?
Oh my God. Yes. And like, it's so depraved, you can't talk about it with anyone
Oh,
who
really?
hasn't like read the book. Yeah. But I loved it. So I went from this like super fun where I was like, I'm trying to figure out like because I know you're younger than I am, but I'm like, you're either my sister Bridget or my sister Jenny's age. Like, your references from the 80s, the clothes, everything, high school. I was just like, oh my gosh, you did such an amazing job of really tracking like your whole life in a way that was so fun and interesting and real. And then what was the hardest part, or maybe the most surprising part about taking your life and then putting it into a book like that's like a memoir?
Yeah. The hardest part was actually reliving it. I would have a bit of a hangover from
Oh,
writing certain
interesting.
chapters when I wrote things that, like, the memories were so fresh when I wrote them down that, yeah, I would just have a hangover, like writing about the bad boyfriend who was cheating on me. I would
Mm.
feel like, why am I a little depressed? Oh, I feel like somebody's cheating. I feel like I just found out someone's cheating on me. So
Oh my
it
gosh,
would,
right.
yeah, yeah. And that's also how I knew I was like writing the right stuff. So I was surprised by that because I'm used to writing about my life and things like that, but not such raw things for public consumption.
Right. It was so funny. Like, laugh up. My husband was like, "What are you reading?" He thought I was reading David Sedaris. Did I tell you that?
Oh,
Because
no,
David
thank you. That's
Sedaris is really
my
the only other
hero.
author where I will just laugh out loud. I remember
Yeah.
reading that book naked. Oh my gosh. And then when he
Yes.
writes about his mom and his sister like smoking and watching all these true crime shows, and then when his mom dies, like just
Yeah.
crying, then like I'm like, how am I laughing and crying like in this same exact story? I want to talk about this idea of authenticity because I think that it's so overused. Everyone's like, oh,
Yeah.
I want to help you find your authentic voice. I'm like, oh my gosh. Because a lot of times people I think feel like, oh, I need to somehow share some like really horrendous story of my
Hmm.
life. Like, I have to have like I was crushed to ashes. I'm rising from the ashes like a
Yes.
phoenix. And if I don't have that kind of story, and I'm like, I don't know if people aren't necessarily wanting to read your diary, but like, what's your take on this word authentic? Is there a different word that you would use? Like, I started to rack my brain today thinking if I was going to use a different word than authentic,
Yeah.
that
It's
was,
tough to
yeah.
find another word. There's real, there's relatable,
Yeah.
It's hard to, it's one of those words that is hard to replace. Same with empowering or power.
Mm,
Those are tough
right.
words to replace. But when it comes, like, so I do think about authenticity. What, like, sometimes I'll read writing that feels really authentic, and that's how I'll experience it.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll just say, this is so real. Usually, actually, the way, if it does feel that way, the way I relate to it, the words in my head are, I wish I wrote this. So that's how I know
Mm,
something's really authentic, because that is the style I like best. That sounds like a real person's true thoughts, true
right.
reflections, and true life. And I think, to me, the quickest path to that, the best shortcut, is in real details, real original
Right.
details. And so
Mm,
you've heard me try to drill down on those, extract those from people when I'm editing their work. Like, this doesn't sound real to me. This sounds like a vague
right.
idea. What exactly does this look like in your mind? If you say, I had the most, I was in a low place in my life, and then something shifted, like,
Mm,
bullshit. But if you say, I was sleeping till 2 p.m. or staying in bed till 2 p.m.
right.
every day, and forgetting to shower and crying every
Right.
time I watched 30 Rock, that
Yes.
then that gives
I
us a
actually
sense of,
have a real story
hmm,
where I was staying in a 3-star Radisson Inn hotel that every room smelled like chlorinated because they had an indoor pool. So it smelled like
boom,
chlorine.
I know that.
And then I was watching on a tube TV. This is
Hmm.
like in the 2020s. And I was watching on a tube TV, not even the show Full House. I was watching a Lifetime movie of the making of the show Full House. And that was like the lowest. It was literally the lowest point. And I'm like, if this is not absolutely just sealing the envelope on just what a shitty experience I'm having right now, this is it completely. Yeah.
Yes, and that sensory detail of the chlorine smell that we know so well, and all you had to say was Radisson and tube TV and chlorinated smell, and so we're there. That brings us right
Right.
there, and it sounds,
Yeah.
to use the word we don't want to use, authentic.
Right. Right. I get it. I get it. And I do like that idea of the detail too, because that has been really helpful just to create that sense of place. Because I feel like when someone's reading your writing, especially on a website, like we want them to feel like, oh, yes, this is I'm in the right place. I'm with the right people. Like this is exactly like I want that, always want that centering place in the content with someone where they
Yeah.
feel like, oh, I get this. I know what they're trying to do. I'm interested. I'm not interested. Not like making it
Yes.
super clear for people to take action.
Right. So those little details pull us in. They're like grit. They're like handholds on, either the writing is either a slippery
Mm,
rock that you just slide off of and can't hold on to, or it has
right.
handholds, crevices that you can climb and get to the top. And so without those details, it usually
Right.
is totally flat and smooth and
Hard
unreadable
to
to
lock and
me.
load on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
and hard to like lock and load on anything
Yes.
too. So this is a perfect way. So because the theme of this podcast is curveballs. And so I would love your advice on how someone can take a personal or business curveball and weave it into their marketing story that feels like it's fresh and meaningful and not like, because I can appreciate like when I write about my brain surgery, I treat that sort of like fine china just because I don't want to write about it too much. And I know exactly what's going to happen when I do write about it. I'm going to get a flood of comments. Like, so I want to make sure like I'm using it appropriately. And I also want to use it like from what I've learned, like, because so I don't want to be stuck in the past or complaining. But how do you think people could write about their curveballs in a way that could help them with their like help them to use it as a tool to help engage with people?
Yeah. Well, I would say write it honestly and don't try to force some huge mindset shift that you didn't
Ah,
necessarily have, or
right,
some, like, maybe it was a turning point for you, maybe it wasn't, and that could be okay too.
right.
If you were to write about your brain surgery and write, here I was thinking that this was that I was going to turn lemons into lemonade, and this was going to be the turning point in my business that
Yes.
somehow like,
Oh,
and yet everything was exactly the same. Like,
right,
I posted on Instagram and it was the same number of likes that I always get, and I uh, walked into the coffee shop and they said, hey, nice to see you, like they had seen you
right,
yesterday, and
right,
that nothing was different. And bringing in the details of that, of like
right,
how, and obviously I'm making all this up, but if you were to say, restarted everything, had clients coming in, and I felt like I wanted to go back to the hospital
right.
because I
Yeah,
didn't want to face it all. Like, that would
right.
feel real and relatable,
Yes.
even if
Well, I'll
only
tell
if that were
you
the
what's
true story. Yeah.
well, no, but I'll tell you the true story is like when you have the comeback and you're just like, wow, I've had this amazing experience. And and I know I'm a changed person from this, and I don't know how I'm going to use this or how this. Am I just a different person? Is this going to show up like in my brand or business? Like I'm just so curious. And then the thing is like making changes like that are a lot harder. Like the road was a lot bumpier than I thought it was going to be. Cause I guess I feel like, oh, I'm making all these positive changes. Like I've changed the way I eat, I meditate, like I've made all these like positive changes. Shouldn't the road be like one of those smooth rocks? No, it's not
Right.
always. So, like, yeah, I totally get that because there were definitely highs and lows. And then there are just some things that are just completely ambivalent. Like, you're just like,
Yes.
okay, like it's just on to the next thing, you know? Oh, that is so interesting. Oh, good.
Yeah.
I feel so inspired after this
Oh, great.
conversation. I
That's
feel like,
awesome.
wow, I just got like a private sesh with my mentor. Thank you so much. How can people, so you said you have some AI. I know you have a ton of things and very cool things. I think I've purchased pretty much everything anytime Laura had anything to sell, I was like, I'm for sure getting this because I
Well,
always like the way you teach, you show before and afters, like you really let us into your process. I can say my experience, and I promise you, I will do this testimonial video for you.
oh, great.
I have to just get over the video hump. Like, I'm really working. Anyways, I'm starting to understand why I'm so like resistant to doing videos. I have a podcast. Like, you would
I
think
want to hear why,
how,
because what you understand. Go on. Let's put a pin in that for a second, but go on what
yeah,
you were
okay,
saying.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So then I just really appreciate how you bring us into your world. You show us how you do things. When you're trying to figure something out, you also are like, look, I am absolutely just, I'm right here with you trying to figure things out. Like when you started to do like posting every day, and then I was like, well, I'm going to do that because she's doing it. And I was just like, I'm just going to start. And then I've been doing it consistently since March. Like, so it
Wow.
has just kept, I know it's been amazing. And so, cause it's
Incredible.
been so fun and free. So I just want to thank you so much for being such an amazing person. And if people want to they want to connect with you, they want to know if they're like, who is this Laura Belgray? I'll be like, well, you're welcome that I was the one to introduce you. But how does somebody get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Yeah. So my digital home is my website, talkingshrimp.com. And you'll find all these things that I sell that Heather was
Yes.
just talking about. And I am also, my main social outlet is Instagram. So you'll find me there at Laura Belgray, my name. I have different
Amazing.
names on every platform, different
See,
handles.
she's
It's
just like us,
ridiculous.
everybody. Yes.
It's a mess. But yes, that is where you can find me. And definitely sign up for my emails. Maybe that if you want to write more freely, feel more free in your self-expression, maybe they will inspire you like they do Heather.
Yes. My
I
gosh,
do
yes.
think that is the comment that I get all the time, whether people are actually paying for my products or just absorbing for free the writing in my emails. They will say,
Yeah.
you make me feel free to be more of myself in my writing and
Yes.
the way I express myself. And so that's a huge compliment. And that's like the most gratifying thing I can hear.
I think what's really funny is there are two people who emails I read. I will make it a point to read their emails. It's yours and also my friend Ann Shabani. And Ann Shabani
Oh,
was at one of
love
your
her.
writing workshops. Like I
Yes,
was just
she
like, oh my
was.
gosh, like that's incredible. And like you guys, those are the only two. So I just think, and you learn a lot about business and about life too. So it's not just all fun and games here. Fun
Love
games
that.
business.
Oh, and
Yeah.
speaking of writing workshops, because I haven't had one. So Anne came to one in Italy, which I did 4 years in a row, and then stopped in 2020 and didn't revive them. But I am finally having an in-person writing workshop in New York City in March that you're going to be at. And I
Oh
don't know if you want,
yes,
I don't
I
know if
am.
you want your audience there with you, but
Yes,
it should
I
come.
will for sure be there. I loved the one day workshop we did last year.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was it.
also very good because you have a lot of and I started to read this book right from your bones too. I
Oh,
was like,
yes. Writing Down the Bones,
I'm going
Natalie
to,
Goldberg.
yes.
Hmm.
So I was like, I'm going to start treating my writing as like, just like I do my bit, right? You read like business books, you learn all these things, and writing has always just come so easily to me that I just haven't studied it as much. And so I feel really excited about that book. But yes, that writing retreat with the one day workshop, like you just had some amazing writing prompts. And I loved that. Like
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah.
Well, I loved the outcomes. I loved the writing that you did and that your fellow shrimpers did. So this time I'm opening it up to like, we'll have our shrimp club retreat, that one day thing. And then we're going to have a 2-day writing workshop that is open to anyone who wants to buy
Oh
and sign up.
my gosh.
So it'll be
Yes.
consecutive with our retreat. So we're going to have an incredible 3-day creative bonanza.
Oh my God. I cannot wait. Do you have the dates yet?
Yeah, it's the end of March.
Oh,
I think it's like
perfect.
this, yeah, end of March, or it might be April 1st. But if sign up for my list if you're listening to this and want to be in on that, because I will soon be releasing info about it.
I for sure want to be in on that because I'm always in New York for my daughter's birthday, which is March 20th. So I'll
Oh,
plan it
right.
around that.
Perfect.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for being on Curveball. I literally cannot you might feel I'm really present, but there's half of my brain who's like, I cannot wait to start writing.
Oh, I love that. That's,
Yeah.
again, highest compliment is when people just want to leave me so they can go
To go
right.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
So fun. Thank you, Heather.